Welcome back. So, we have had this video coming for a while now.
We really have.
Um, this is going to be a two-parter, as you can tell from the title. This is talking about immigrating to Peru.
Uh-huh.
So, we're hoping that this can be helpful for some people, and most of the information we've compiled is for someone from the United States.
Right.
But there is general info as well. So,
Yep.
it's going to be long. I'm sorry. So we're just going to start.
But we hope it's helpful for you if you're planning on
Yes.
immigrating.
So we have just a few things to consider before we kind of get into some of the basics. The first thing that you need to know is that your passport needs to be valid for at least another year.
Yep.
So if your passport's expiring soon, make sure you take care of that before coming.
Another thing is that bureaucracy in Latin America, if you're planning on immigrating to Latin America, is not efficient.
There will be delays.
You can just bet on it.
Prepare yourself mentally.
Yeah, we thought we prepared ourselves mentally for this, and the extent of the delays was difficult to bear. But just, you're going to get delayed.
Everything's
Count
going to be
on it.
delayed. It's part of the process.
Right. Another really important thing to consider if you are emigrating to Latin America in the near future is the ongoing economic crisis in Venezuela. So this has meant, I think by the last count now, about 2 million people have left Venezuela, and they have predominantly arrived in places like Peru, obviously much more so in Colombia, and also in Ecuador. This has created a regional crisis when it comes to migration because of this massive influx of people. There is not really any signs that this is going to stop soon. If I had to guess, 2018 is definitely going to be subject to this, if not 2019 as well. It's been going on for at least the last 3 years, if not 4.
Yeah.
And this has created a situation where immigration laws are subject to frequent changes. Just in the last year and a half, immigration laws in Peru have changed like 3 or 4 times.
4 times, just in the past year.
Right.
So what we're telling you may be out of date even by the time we post this video.
Right.
So please just check the resources. We're going to be linking a lot of websites down below for the Peruvian Migration Office.
Yep.
So check those first. Don't take our word for it.
Yep.
Also, another thing to keep in mind is that the immigration process needs to be initiated and completed at the Migraciones office in Lima. And Lima is also the location of Interpol.
Yep.
So if you're moving somewhere else like us, we live in Arequipa, be prepared to at least travel to Lima once,
Right.
depending on how your situation is going. Another thing to keep in mind is that immigration lawyers in Peru are super helpful.
Definitely.
We did have an immigration lawyer.
Really having an immigration lawyer wherever you're going is helpful.
Right.
They know the process.
That being said, it can be costly.
Yep.
So there's kind of gives and takes. Just if you're unsure of the process, or if you
don't have a really good grasp of the local language.
Yeah, a lawyer is super helpful.
Right.
But be sure you know their fees in advance. Don't
Right.
just sign on.
Right.
If there's like a monthly fee or I can't quite remember what it's called. But anyway, because of all the delays, if there's a monthly fee,
Yeah.
it's going to be
The delays will kill you.
horrible.
So a lot of lawyers, more than one that we've met, has kind of a monthly kind of fee that you just sign on to. It's almost like having them available at your
Like
beck and call.
on retainer. That's what I'm thinking.
There we go. There we go. Or a task-based fee. So we did a task-based fee. Like I said, okay.
So the whole of the immigration process
Right.
will cost this amount. It doesn't matter how long it takes.
Right. And if you want more information about that, ask us in the comments below. We're more than happy to
Yeah.
to take to entertain a conversation about that.
Exactly.
And to give recommendations about specific lawyers.
Yes. So the next thing we want to talk about is apostyling.
Yeah, fun times. Many of you probably haven't even heard of this process
I hadn't
before.
heard of it
Right.
until this was a thing for us.
Yep.
So apostyling is a special type of certification or like legalization of documents governed by certain international agreements. So very important.
Yes.
Any documents that need apostyling, so the original document must be apostilled in the place in which it was produced.
Correct.
So, for an example, I'll
Uh-huh.
give what we needed. We needed our marriage license apostilled. Um, we were married in the state of Wisconsin. So our marriage license was produced in Wisconsin. Therefore, the marriage license needed to be apostilled by the state of Wisconsin.
Yes.
It couldn't be done in another state.
Correct.
It couldn't be done in another country.
Right.
It had to be done in that state. So
Yes.
that's rather important.
So when you're thinking about your immigration process and what it's going to require, think about before you leave your country what documents have to be apostilled. In our case, for example, we needed our marriage certificate apostilled in the state of Wisconsin. We needed our college or university diplomas or degrees apostilled. So
Yeah.
this would be your diploma, your license, your title, whatever it is that shows your education certification. Needs to be apostilled where it was issued.
Yeah. And also another thing that is fairly important
Yes.
is that any documents that may need to be translated, so for us from English into Spanish, so any document where the original is not in Spanish must be brought to Peru for translation by a certified Peruvian translator.
Yes. Don't have the document translated outside of Peru from not Spanish into Spanish. Don't do
Yes.
it. It will not be accepted.
It won't be accepted, and then you'll have more delays.
Right.
Because then you'll have to get it translated again by someone in Peru.
Yep.
So those are important lessons that we learned
Yes.
through our process by trial and error.
Yep. Yep.
So, and also it might be noted that it might be smart to get, if you only need one apostilled marriage certificate, maybe get two.
Right.
Just-
Copies are an important ally of yours. It's
Yeah.
frustrating and it's kind of annoying and it seems wasteful.
Right.
But if you can get copies of things, do it just in case. You never know how many times you'll need it. If you need a copy, and if, for example, it's an apostille, you have to get that done in your home country.
Yeah.
And so that can be extremely costly in time. It can be extremely costly in money, having those documents
Shipping.
shipped back and forth.
And if you don't have anyone in your home state or country to help you,
Right.
You
be
have
very difficult.
I mean, you'd have to go back. I don't know
Right.
what else you do. So I would recommend bringing extras.
Right. Right. And usually, like the process will cost cost X, and then the extra copy will be significantly less. So
Yeah.
just keep that in mind.
Yep. So now we're just going to talk about general immigration options,
Yep.
like to get to Peru. Do you want to?
Yeah, and there's a lot of resources online. I'm sure other countries around the world have these kinds of information online. So we will link below Peru's immigration requirements and different
Yeah.
kind of options that you have for immigration. So
Exactly.
first is temporary visas, and there's a short list of them. The most common one that everyone's very familiar with if you've traveled anywhere in the world is a tourist visa. So as American citizens, we do not need any kind of permission or visa before entering the country. We can get that fulfilled
As a
at the
tourist.
airport as a tourist. So the norm is a 90-day pass. You can get 180 days if you ask for it.
Very important.
Yes.
So 180 days is usually the max for the tourist visa, and that is in a 12-month period by law.
Yes.
That recently changed.
Yes.
So, for example, if you were in the country for 3 months in 2017, and then you come for another 3 months in 2018, even though those are two separate annual years, if it's still within a 365-day period, that is the max.
Right. You may have difficulty getting back in if you leave the country, say, to renew your visa and try to get back in. You may have difficulty. We've heard some stories going both ways on this.
We haven't
experienced it ourselves,
but it's just something to be aware of.
and it is in the law currently, and that's something that's relatively new.
Yeah.
Another one is a business visa, and so if your company has in the United States or wherever has you traveling to Peru for business reasons, you can get a pass for up to 180 days. This is something that has to be done in advance, and there's a few requirements that we'll go into in just a minute, or actually we'll go into
In the
in
next video.
our process.
Yeah.
But this is usually a 180-day pass, so that's 6 months. And there's requirements that we'll talk about in a bit. A very common one is a student visa. So if you're coming to Peru for a semester abroad, you can get a 180-day or 6-month pass to study here in Peru. And that requires proof of enrollment at a school in Peru, and so usually that takes the form of a letter from the institution that you'll be studying at.
Mm-hmm. The other one that we don't have any familiarity with, but it's listed and it'll be in the link below, is an artist visa.
Yep.
So these are typically 90 days and can be renewed for up to a year. So those are all of Peru's temporary visas.
Yep. So the next ones that we'll be talking the most about in the next video as well is a permanent residency visa, and there's several different categories in that. Again, we're going to link below the resource for this particular type of visa, and I'm just going to quickly list them. So there's permanent worker, there's also a student, a more lengthy, more permanent student or training visa. There's also a visa for religious purposes and clergy. There's also one for an investor, so if you are wealthy and have money to spend in Peru, there's a particular slot for you there. And then also a renter or somebody who has property here in Peru, that you need to be available in the country to
upkeep your property,
make new agreements, and that kind of thing. So those are just the general kind of categories for permanent residency, and we'll be talking about a permanent worker visa. If you have specific questions, we are more than happy to talk about our process.
Yeah.
And we're going to go into that in greater detail in the next video.
Yeah. So the next week after this video is posted, stay tuned for our experiences.
It was fantastic.
And they're just our experiences, so not everyone is this way. And again, obviously our experience is from the United States to Peru, so if you're coming from another country, it very well could be different. The requirements could be different.
Right.
So make sure you check the websites or any other websites listed below. And if you have some other website that is a good resource, please put it in the comments for other people.
Absolutely.
Because we
especially if you're not from the United States.
Yeah, we seriously had a tough time trying to navigate all this and finding information online. So hopefully this can be helpful.
Yep.
And again, let us know if you have questions. And I guess we'll see you in the next video, and you can hear us talk about our processes. We'll see you.